Hello, welcome. How are you? I'm well. Thank you very much. Today we're going to talk about some top 3 common English mistakes. So it's been about a year since I started doing English tutoring on italki. I've been a conversation partner for people that are learning English on there, and because it's been about a year, I've had a lot of conversations with people at various levels, mostly I'd say in the intermediate range. And I thought it might be interesting and helpful or something to talk about kind of the top 3 mistakes I've seen. But they're not really the top 3 most common mistakes, because those would be articles, prepositions, I don't know, verb stuff. You know that, we know that, everyone knows that. I don't need to talk about it. That would be a very boring video. So instead, these are mistakes that are like specific and kind of unique or interesting, yet they're consistent. I've seen a lot of people struggle with these. Maybe you make these mistakes and you're not aware of it. And these aren't like, oh, huge, big deal mistakes. Don't stress out about this. But if you're at the stage in your language learning process where you have the luxury to focus on these kinds of little mistakes, then cool. Do that. I'm putting my favorite at the end, by the way, so stick around. Okay, let's do this. So, I have my handy dandy notebook here. The first one that we're going to look at is the verb to present. Now, what happens is people very understandably want to use this verb to present to describe the act of giving a gift to someone, right? The act of giving a present to someone. And this is very thematic because it is December, so this time of year you might be wanting to say, oh, I presented my girlfriend with a new coffee mug. But that is actually not how to use this verb. In English, at least American English, oh yeah, another, what's the word? Crap. Alright, I don't remember the word, we'll say disclaimer. Another disclaimer. I'm American. This channel is about American English. All the advice I'm giving and everything I talk about is from my perspective, because it turns out English speakers all over the world express things in very different ways, with very different words and vocabulary. So if you are wanting to go for the more American style, then you can take my advice, I think, pretty well. It should be good. It should work out for you. But when I say, oh, this is how it is, take it with a grain of salt. Because A, I'm not a professional, or rather 1, I'm not a professional, and 2, I'm American. All right, let's do this. When we want to say we're giving a gift to someone, we use the verb to give often or to get. So for example, I gave my mother a present for her birthday. My boyfriend got me a new bike. Oh yeah, I gave her a present last week because it was her birthday. Oh, I got something for you. Here it is. I hope you like it. It's a Pinocchio mug. It's kind of convoluted and long, but this is how we say it. Now the verb to present, for now, you can Google the definition if you want to, but just really quickly, how I see the verb to present, it's often used in situations where someone is displaying or showing something off to a crowd of people or a group of people. It's often used in more professional or academic contexts. So imagine you have a scientist on a stage and they have a new invention, and there's a blanket over this invention. The scientist might say, I present to you, and then they take off the blanket, and there's some weird machine there. And they say the name of the machine, okay? So they're presenting this to the audience. So if you want to say that you're giving a gift to someone, say you're giving a gift to someone, or you got a gift for someone. Don't say to present. Doesn't work. I'm sorry. Let's go. Next is tricky adjectives. So someone might, on accident, say, oh, I'm really interested in this book, when actually they should be saying, I'm interested in this book. It's a common thing while you're talking to accidentally do the wrong one. So there are some adjectives where they have a predictable pattern of suffixes. Okay, so some examples of these are confused versus confusing. Okay, irritated versus irritating. interested versus interesting, right? So the ones that end in ing, those are the ones that are kind of causing this reaction in something else. This book is interesting, so it makes someone else interested, right? So then that means the ed ones, they're describing someone or something that is affected by what these ones are causing. This movie is confusing, so it makes me confused. Okay? But the last one, and this one, is just a common one, a big issue. A lot of people struggle with this, and as far as I know, there is no pattern. It's just a weird one, right? And that's fun versus funny. If I say that you're fun, what does that mean? I'll give you a chance to speak. Okay, time's up. So, if I say you're fun, that means that I think you're like cool and enjoyable to hang out with. It's a good time if we're hanging out. If I say you're funny, what does that mean? That means that I think that you make people laugh a lot. You tell a lot of jokes. You're hilarious. Okay, you're humorous. You have a good sense of humor, right? Now, funny can be used as a word similar to weird. Like, oh wow, you look funny. And that means you look weird. It's not a compliment. And that's used sometimes, but in general, funny as like humorous, hilarious. Hilarious is a kind of a stronger version. That's used a lot. So it's really good to keep track of these adjectives because mixing them up could be confusing for people. So let's say that you were just at an amusement park with your friends and it was a fun time, right? And you want to tell them that, but you accidentally say it was a funny time. They might be like, what do you mean? Like, what was funny? What was funny about it? Like, was there like someone telling jokes? Like, that doesn't make sense. So it would confuse people. Yeah. All right, next. I'm excited to talk about this one. So I noticed this quite a bit. In intermediate advanced speakers, maybe double check yourself to see if you're doing this. So, should. Okay? So a lot of people I'm noticing are using should in situations where it doesn't really fit. Let's look at an example. I might hear someone say, because of COVID-19, my university isn't having any in-person classes, so I should study online instead. So, how does that sound to you? Maybe it sounds fine to you. It doesn't sound fine to me. It doesn't quite make sense to me. It puts alarm bells in my head. And I'm like, that's not quite right. Now, do you have any guesses as to why I might feel that way? Here's how I would do this sentence. If I were talking and if I were explaining the situation to someone, I would say, because of COVID-19, my university isn't having any in-person classes, so I have to study online instead. Okay, I used have to instead of should. What I'm noticing is that we've got a bunch of modal verbs like should, have to, need to, and people are kind of using should. You might be using should instead of other modal verbs. They're not interchangeable, is what I'm saying. They're not always interchangeable. Sometimes they are. It depends on the situation, but they do definitely have different meanings. So should often means ought to. It has other definitions, but those aside, the main one we're looking at today is it being used as ought to, because as an American, that's often how we use it in everyday conversation. Maybe you have the flu, okay? And you were going to visit your grandma, okay? But you're kind of worried about her getting sick. So if you want to describe the situation to someone, think about how much choice is involved, and the modal verb you choose will kind of dictate how it comes across. It'll change the mood of what you're saying. So for example, you could say, I have the flu, I was going to visit my grandma, but because I have the flu, I have to stay home. That really kind of takes it off of you. It's not really very personal. We're now just in the realm of just, this is how it is. It has an air of being separate from you, like you didn't decide this. It's just like, have to stay home? I'm sick. That's how it is. You could say the same thing, but with should. You could say, I was going to visit my grandma, but now I have the flu, so I should stay home. And that means there's a choice. You could go there. And that's what this communicates to who you're speaking to. It communicates, I've personally made this decision because I think it's the best thing to do. That's what it communicates. And so there are some areas like this example and like my milk example where a person could choose from a variety of these, ways of expression, right? You could use should in this situation, and you could use need to or have to. There's a spectrum, but there are some situations where there really isn't that much room. You kind of are forced into choosing one of them. If you have a sentence like the first example, where my university is closed because of COVID, so I should study online, that doesn't make sense to me because there's no choice. It's not that it's advisable for you to stay home. You have to stay home. There's no choice at all. The point of the sentence is the university has closed in-person classes. None are happening. Even if you wanted to take them, you couldn't. You have to stay home. It's a rule. You have no choice. So should doesn't make sense. Need to or have to would make more sense. Okay? And yeah, this is basically the crux of the mistakes that I see is people using should when they should be saying should. It's advisable instead to say need to or have to or must. Okay? Those are my three, not six, three top mistakes. 1, to present. If you want to describe giving a gift to someone, say, I gave them a gift. I gave them a present. I got them a gift. Don't say, I presented them something. That doesn't make sense. 2, tricky adjectives. Pay attention to fun versus funny. Pay attention to scared versus scary. They are tiny differences, but the meanings are totally different, and they can have a very big impact on your communication and how easy you are to understand. 3, should. Be careful when using should. Don't use it too much. Pay attention to the situations you're using it in, and if you're using it in situations when there's no choice involved, maybe choose a different verb. Okay. There we go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was interesting. Yeah. I might make a part 2 with a couple of other random, interesting mistakes. Again, don't stress out about this. Mistakes are normal, but if you want to address these, here they are. This is my what I've noticed from this last year. Okay. Thank you very much. Please subscribe for language content and whatever I make. Click like if you enjoyed this, and thank you. See you next time.